Good morning, people. Good morning. My name is Richard Heydt. I'm a longtime member of this church, and I am very pleased to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. Today, our professional ministers, Reverend Peter and Reverend Kat, are not in the pulpit, so I will be leading the service along with help from Barbara Saxton. Both Barbara and I are in the choir. The choir is also not here today. They will be here next week, but we are very fortunate to have our wonderful friend and wonderful pianist Veronica here, who has an extremely busy day, and yet she is going to provide our special music this morning. We gather, our different paths entwined, to deepen our spiritual lives, nourishing connection, learning from each other, caring for each other, and tending to our world.
We gather on unceded, stolen land of the Tamien and Ramaytush peoples. We acknowledge these communities in the interest of truth and justice, awareness and gratitude. In order to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism, we pledge to join the Tamien and Ramaytush people whenever they ask us for solidarity. He's going to join. Masks are not required, but we strongly encourage them. We express our mutual respect by supporting each other's decisions about masking, distancing, and other health measures. If you're here in person and you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about this congregation, please stop by the welcome table with the blue tablecloth and chat with a friendly member there, or to anyone in this congregation. You can leave your contact information if you want to receive notifications of upcoming events, or if this is the week you want to join this congregation, you can also do that at the welcome table. I'm pleased to announce and introduce Lorraine Michelle of our September Justice Partner, There With Care. Lorraine is There With Care's Director of Volunteer Engagement, and she will fill us in on the good work that her organization performs in the Bay Area. And as is traditional, all proceeds from today's offering will go to our Justice Partner, There With Care. And here is Lorraine.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. I'm actually here because of one of the members of your congregation that you may know as Ellen Flaman, and she nominated There With Care last year, and so we received generous contributions from you last year, and so it's an honor and a privilege to be here again. There With Care is a local nonprofit in Redwood City that helps families when a family has a child in the hospital with a life-threatening illness. These are babies, children, and teens who are fighting to live. No parent can prepare themselves, no family can prepare themselves, the siblings, the aunts, the uncles, to hear the devastating news that their child has cancer, leukemia, a blood disease, a heart condition, or some other rare disease. Our children are supposed to outlive us as adults. When families receive this news, they go into crisis. They are emotionally, mentally, and physically challenged and overwhelmed. The hospital team is there to focus on the medical care of that patient, that child, and we are there as a community. They have often left their homes that is in another city, another state, or sometimes another country. They've often left behind their partners and the other children. They cannot all be at the hospital. They have often given up their employment and their community. All of this is like a love story. It's like because they want to be with their child at the hospital during that treatment in the hope that that treatment will save their child's life. So imagine arriving at a hospital in an emergency and being told that you cannot go home with your child for weeks, months, or a year or more. You are now living at the hospital at your child's bedside. Life's day-to-day activities immediately become challenging and overwhelming. The loss of employment and other resources means that families quickly have emotional distress, food and housing insecurity, and most now have little or no income. Now, there's something we can do. This is where we come in as a community. We want these families to know that there are people in the community who care about them and can help. Most often when we're in good health, we don't sit and spend our day thinking about and wonder who's in the hospital and what is the challenge that they're going through. We have There With Care asked the community to volunteer and make care bags, to volunteer and deliver meals and essential items to families at the hospital. We call them on the phone to listen to their stories and support them during these times of psychological and emotional distress. We will let them know that they are not alone, that we care. All of this happens for families at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital in San Francisco and Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford. Anyone in the community can volunteer. Anyone in the community can help. The power of a stranger for these families is enormous. Sometimes we have a volunteer who'll say, "I'm just delivered a care bag to the family. It was a few groceries, it was a few toiletries. It was some of the things that they needed. And it was just simple to make that delivery and give those items that had been given to us by the community. But when the family received those items, it was like I had given them the sun, moon, and the stars. And that's how important it meant to the family. We kindly ask you to donate generously today to help the 130 families that we're helping on a weekly basis to ensure that they receive the care and support that they desperately needed. Your donation, no matter how big or small, really gives the family an important gift. Any time as a community we are helping the family, we're not just taking off the burden of life's day-to-day activities like we might do for a best friend or a family neighbor if they were sick. We're not just going to the grocery store, we're not just giving them some of the items that they need and having them spend less time at the store, less time focused on day-to-day life activities. We're giving them one of the most important gifts that we can give them, and that's the gift of more time with their sick child. So thank you for listening, thank you for giving generously, and I will be here in the lobby after the service if anyone wants any more information or has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Elsa Schaefer would like to make an announcement.
Thank you so much. Tears in my eyes.
Elsa, why don't you come up?
Come on up to the right up.
One of us is down here. Thank you so much, and thank you, Lorraine, so much. Before she left, Reverend Amy set up a little immigration group for us. There are 3 of us in it right now: Bruce Olstadt, Karen Skold, and me. I'm the non-Spanish speaker. And we have just gotten our first person who's a Honduran woman named Yamaleth, who unfortunately could not get her immigration hearing moved from LA to San Francisco. And we need to accompany her on Wednesday down to LA to just take her to this court hearing. We have the best lawyer in the Bay Area who's a USF professor who's guiding us in this. And we need to find someone who is a Spanish speaker who would take her there and bring her back. So it would be Tuesday night, because it's a 9 a.m. court hearing right by LAX. And Karen is away at actually without cell coverage at a UU conference. Bruce is conducting in Sacramento that night, and I do not speak Spanish. So we very much would appreciate someone in this congregation or someone you know whom you trust volunteering to do this from Tuesday night through Wednesday afternoon. We are separately fundraising for the flight, the hotel, food, and grounds transportation there. And I have to say, I haven't asked his permission, but Joe has already stepped up to pay for those flights. Thank you so much, Joe. I will be on the patio afterward. If there's any Spanish speaker who can think about this during the service and see whether you might be able to be that accompanied person, we would be so grateful. And of course, any help defraying the other costs would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elsa. I want to call your attention to the announcements in the order of service today. One in particular, after a change of plans, there is CYRE today, that is youth, children's and youth religious education. Other thing I want to mention in particular is that next Sunday, September 7th, is our annual water communion service, and that's going to be followed afterwards by our all-church picnic. And Edie Keating has said that we need people to bring desserts. So if you're a person that can either buy a dessert, make a dessert, or do a dessert, then bring it next Sunday for our picnic.
And the sign up today would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. So now please center yourselves as we begin our service.
Today's word says, I light the chalice. And by the way, if you have a chalice and you're listening in at home, please light it along with us. Come from Dag Hammarskjöld, former Swedish diplomat and United Nations Secretary General. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back.
With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are from the former UUA president, William Schultz. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of harmony, of memory, and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change your heart. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, allow yourself to be here fully. As you can tell from the presence of our Minister of Religious Education, Kat, it's time for our story for all ages, so I want to invite all of the young at heart, and even those who aspire to be young at heart, to please come up and sit up here with Kat and me. I see we have a lot of aspiring people. So this is good. It was so inviting. Absolutely. Thank you for sitting up here with me. So some of the themes of today's service are light and seeing in the darkness. So I picked a story called Flashlight. Which is a very nice story. It has no words, it's all pictures. And so I'm going to try to show you the pictures, and hopefully Tim will be able to show you the pictures on the screen. And, oh, good. Please come sit up here, and I will talk through it, and maybe you guys can help me describe what's going on. So what we have is a boy. We don't know this boy's name, but we'll call him Richard because that just happens to be my name too. So this boy is out camping at night in the woods, and he's in a tent. When I was a kid, I loved camping overnight in a tent. Have you ever been in a tent before? She has. Okay, all right, so you know what it's about, and you know how important it is to have a flashlight so that you can see in the dark. So the boy, he's curious about what's going on outside, and so he gets his flashlight, and the first thing he does is he has to find his boots, and you can see his yellow boot there. So he wants to get his boots on so he can walk around and find out what's going on. And once he does that, he starts to look at all the activity that's going on in the woods, and one of the first things he sees is bats. Have you ever seen a bat before? No, apparently not, okay? So anyway, so he keeps walking around in the woods because there's a lot of interesting stuff, and he sees, it looks like there's some mice down there on the forest floor, and then look up here, he sees a big old owl. Actually, I don't know if it's an old owl, but it's a big owl, and that's always impressive when you find an owl. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Next, he's looking down at the forest floor, and what does he see? Do you know what those are down there? Can you see those? Yeah, you want to hold your nose because they're skunks. That's probably why the boy is hiding behind the tree. He's still out there, and now he's looking at the stream, and he's got his flashlight on a beaver, building a house in the stream, no doubt. And ooh, look at this. What is that in the tree? It is a porcupine. Indeed, I don't see porcupines very often, but it must be pretty exciting to come across one in the woods at night. And then in a tree, right, exactly. And then he keeps going and he looks down, there's a stream there, and he sees some fish. There's a whole lot of animals here, and I'm gonna skip some of them. But there's a lot going on in the woods, and he goes out and explores, and it looks like he's found a tree house, because somebody has a tree house with some flags out front. And then he notices nearby there's a bunch of apples that have been bitten, and so there's a chunk bitten out of each apple, and you wonder who did that. I don't know if it's the porcupine, but it could be the deer that took the. So there's so much going on, and he's so entranced by everything that he's not watching his step, and he walks and he trips over a rock, and the flashlight goes flying. No, so now he's in the dark. But look what happens next. It looks like the raccoon has got the flashlight and now has the flashlight shining on him. How about that?
But they don't have opposing thumbs, so a raccoon can hold the flashlight.
Well, I think you're right, Stephen, but he's using two hands, so okay. So then the raccoon now gives the flashlight, it looks like, to the beaver. So they're passing this flashlight around, and the beaver now is shining the light on the back of the boy, and you see his yellow boots and his pants there. And then look who ends up with it next. It's, I guess those are maybe baby skunks end up with a flashlight. The animals are very generous with each other. They just pass this flashlight around.
It's like the Garden of Eden.
So. And then finally, it looks like some baby beavers have come up with the flashlight, and they're shining it on the boy. And in the end, the owl ends up with the flashlight, and it shines that flashlight on all the critters that are out there, plus the boy, and they're all enjoying this together. But it's getting late. So the boy, even though his parents aren't there to tell him, he knows that it's probably time to go to bed. So he needs to go back to his tent with the flashlight. Well, I guess that's the owl that shows him the flashlight and shines the flashlight on the tent and shows him how to get back there. And then in this very last picture, the boy is back in his tent, and looks like he's, all ready for bed, and the little mice are out front. They're still shining a light for him. So that is the flashlight story, and yes, and so you can learn a lot when you have a flashlight and you're looking in the dark. And sometimes when you do that, the light gets shown back on you. So, thank you for listening.
That was amazing, Richard. I've heard of songs without words, but not books without words, and then you make up all the words. It's quite amazing. Please rise as you're able and join in singing This Little Light of Mine, number 118 in the gray hymnal, and the words are on the monitors and also in the order of service. In my reflection, I'm going to be saying some things about my late father that are not the most pleasant recollections that I have of him. But before I started that, I wanted to go a little bit lighter. He had a tremendous sense of humor. And I'm not going to tell a lot of the dirty jokes that he told, sometimes at dinner tables and things. But he really liked the humorous poet Ogden Nash. So I'm going to read a couple of his poems first, and then I'm going to read a poem that's often attributed to Ogden Nash, but was actually written by Dickinson Lanier Merritt, who I never heard of before. Anyway, The Cow. The cow is of the bovine ilk. One end is moo, the other milk. And then reflections on ice breaking. Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. The pelican. A wonderful bird is the pelican. His bill can hold more than his bellican. He can take in his beak enough food for a week, but I'm damned if I know how the helican. Okay. When I was growing up, there was a running joke in my family that my birth had caused my father to have a nervous breakdown. Pretty funny, huh? Actually, the appearance of a fourth young mouth to feed probably didn't do much to alleviate Daddy's increasing mental instability and despair, but it wasn't the only factor. After all, he was a longtime alcoholic who drank more and more after World War II ended. He had served over 3 years on an aircraft carrier before that ship was sunk by kamikaze pilots. He barely survived that battle, but at least half of his shipmates and friends were killed. Like most World War II veterans, however, he was offered no PTSD therapy, and he tried to forget by drinking and working overtime at his former highly competitive sales job at IBM. The morning the proverbial shit hit the fan, he told me years later, he had gotten up, walked into the bathroom to shave, and not only failed to recognize his own face in the mirror, but he couldn't recall how to use a razor or nearly everything else. He was catatonic and was committed to a psychiatric hospital for about a month. While there, some doctor must have recommended Norman Vincent Peale, and his books to my father. Peale was very popular in the early 1950s. Daddy was never much of a reader, but he read almost every word of The Power of Positive Thinking, accepting most of its teachings hook, line, and sinker. Although he'd never shown much interest in religion, but Methodist minister Peale definitely did, the book's messages, expect the best and get it, believe in yourself and all you do, and develop the power to reach your goals, became lanterns, a la Richard's Emily Dickinson quote, to guide him in looking for himself. Another technique that Peale advocated, improving your personal and professional relationships, seemed not to impress my father at all. He only cared about believing in himself, and he thought that would pull him out of deeper depression and uselessness. To hell with everyone else, and that included most of the members of our family. When my siblings and I were kids, we, especially my two older sisters, were admonished for being too sensitive or even too stupid to succeed in the ways that he had. My mother was a parasite because she stayed at home doing all the cleaning, cooking, and laundry and raising 4 kids that ranged in age from nearly 2 to 14. He was particularly brutal in his assessments of my maternal grandparents, uncle and aunt, who were, in his opinion, losers. After the breakdown cost him his job at IBM, my grandparents not only helped move our family from Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland, but Grandpa also stayed in Cleveland with us for at least a month, teaching my father everything he knew about opening and running a lucrative steel slitting shop. My father rewarded him by attempting to turn anyone who would listen against my mother's terrible relatives. He twisted Norman Vincent Peale's pep talks to mean that the only person who should get credit for your success is yourself. That notion is certainly part of Peale's writings, but to be fair, he also emphasized that a belief in God and the Bible were the main foundation for personal progress. It is not at all surprising to me that both Donald Trump and his father greatly admired and followed much of the advice in Peale's books and recordings, which have sold millions of copies worldwide. Whether Peale himself intended his self-improvement methods to foster authoritarianism and ruthless vengeance against one's purported enemies or not, they have definitely been used to further some of those purposes. After all he suffered in the war and afterward, my father really needed bright lanterns to guide him in finding and accepting himself again. By embracing Norman Vincent Peale's dictum, he became functional again and grasped positive thinking. But left behind in the process were acquiring, or in his case, regaining, compassion, tolerance, and kindness. To his wife and family, these traits would have meant so much more than the money he made. My father died in the late 90s of Alzheimer's disease. I sat by his bedside for some time after he died, waiting for the mortuary to arrive and at the rest home where he'd spent his final 4 years. Staring at his death mask, I felt estranged from this man whose selfishness and mean attitudes had long rendered him unrecognizable to me, even before he ceased knowing who I was. Okay, let's sing, yes. Please rise as you're able and join us in singing Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire, which is on page 34 in the gray hymnal.
Always
Continuing with the theme of light, I'd like to read a poem by Jane Hirschfield titled Meeting the Light Completely. Even the long-beloved was once an unrecognized stranger. Just so, the chipped lip of a blue-glazed cup, the blown field of a yellow curtain, might also, flooding and falling, ruin your heart. A table painted with roses, an empty clothesline. Each time the found world surprises, that is its nature. And then, what is said by all lovers, what fools we were not to have seen. My reflection this morning in this service is motivated by words that Emily Dickinson once wrote. I am out with lanterns looking for myself. I became aware of these words of Emily Dickinson at a choral concert in San Francisco that I went to with a friend, and at which the words were the title of a song that was sung by an a cappella choir. The context of Emily's words is somewhat mundane on the surface. Her words are from an 1856 letter, not a poem, a letter, that she wrote to a friend in which she is expressing her thoughts of feeling lost as she is moving to a new house. In this letter, she says, I cannot tell you how we moved. I had rather not remember. I believe my effects were brought in a bandbox, and the deathless me on foot, not many moments after. I took at the time a memorandum of my several senses, and also of my hat and coat and my best shoes. But it was lost in the melee, and I am out with lanterns looking for myself. Now, of course, since this is Emily Dickinson, we know these words carry weight. Out with lanterns looking for myself, I think is a wonderfully poetic image and metaphor. As someone who's a word lover and a searcher, this image appealed to me immediately. Maybe it appeals to you as well, because aren't we all searchers? I know I have been searching for most of my life. One of my early thoughts when I was considering Emily's words was that the context of the idea of looking for oneself is somewhat of a privilege for the very few. I was thinking, for example, of a young person from an upper middle class family who finishes college and says, well, I'm done with college now, so I'm going to go to Bhutan for a year to look for myself. Now, to be clear, I don't begrudge anyone who has that opportunity and takes advantage of it. In fact, that kind of thing probably would have helped me as I was growing up. On the other hand, if you're someone who is struggling to feed your family by working multiple jobs, or if you're just struggling to survive, would you be thinking about, or would you even be aware of, looking for yourself? Well, I think maybe you would. Clearly, there are different levels of meaning to the idea of looking for oneself. We Unitarian Universalists might equate looking for yourself to one of our guiding principles, our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And for many of us, engaging in that search is essential, not just for what we might call self-fulfillment, but really in order that our lives have any meaning at all. On a deeper level, looking for oneself can be related to the mythical idea of the hero's journey, a personal journey not just to find yourself, but to prove yourself and to be transformed in the process. The idea of the hero's journey was popularized in the mid-20th century by sociologist Joseph Campbell, among others. However, it's also true that most of the times that we become aware self-consciously of looking for ourselves, we don't feel heroic at all. We don't know what we will find as we search, nor do we know whether in the end we will succeed in finding anything at all. But still, we keep looking. What Emily Dickinson was referring to specifically is the kind of looking made necessary by a loss that makes your world suddenly unrecognizable. We all know that at any time, life can hand us momentous losses of recognition, the kind of losses for which you can never prepare, the kind of losses that rock your world. And when that happens, looking for yourself can in fact be essential to your well-being. It can be existential. You may have lost connection to the world you knew through the death of a family member, the loss of a child, or the estrangement from a beloved one in your life. You may have lost a physical space that grounded you, that defined you and held your memories. We assume that in Emily Dickinson's case, her loss was relatively modest, that she would eventually right herself and adjust to her new home. But think about all the people who have lost their homes in storms, floods, fires, earthquakes. Questions press hard on you that you can't ignore. How will I ever feel secure again? How will I find myself again? And how will I survive this night? You too might be out with lanterns. So I don't believe that looking for yourself is only a self-indulgent privilege for the few, not in the least. I think it's an essential part of all our lives. For most of us, it doesn't feel like a hero's journey, but it does take different forms and it carries different urgency at different times in our lives. Some of you may not think of yourselves primarily as searchers, as I do myself. You may be focused on the immediate responsibilities of your family and on the present joys of being with your family, as you well should be. So searching and looking for you may not be top of mind, even if it's going on in some corner of your mind. My personal situation in life is different from many of you. Both of my parents have passed, and I don't have the day-to-day responsibilities of caring for children. I also have never had to look for myself, that is, to really find out who I am when I was faced with the kind of debilitating loss that makes it hard to even survive the night. So in that sense, I'm very fortunate. I'm a person who often finds myself in a place which the Irish poet Padraig O'Tuama calls the space between sun and moon, searching to find hope and light where twilight lingers. And I very consciously feel like I am searching, always looking for myself, perhaps as a way to face existential loneliness. And even in twilight, between light and dark, we often need lanterns. Before I became aware of the words of Emily Dickinson, a friend who I have since lost touch with looked at me once with a somewhat puzzled gaze and said, "Seems like you're going through something." Had I known these words of Emily Dickinson at the time, I could have responded, "Well, yes. Did you not see the lanterns?" Of course, I wouldn't have said that. That would have been a snide answer to a serious question, but there's some truth to it. I have been attending this church for many years, and many of you have heard me speak here before. You know that I care about the people at UUCPA, that I love and have benefited from our great music program, and that I like the things we do here, what we stand for. All of that is really special to me. So you might assume that each time that I enter this main hall, I feel completely comfortable. But I'll admit to you now that once in a while, in fact, I feel a little self-conscious. It happens at those times when it occurs to me that others may wonder, why when Richard comes here does he usually come alone? Well, I'll tell you, it's a long and very uninteresting story. But it's not a sad story. And I want to say that even on those occasions when I do feel self-conscious, in fact, when I'm here at UUCPA, I never feel alone. And it's not just because of all you friendly people who are out here in the main hall and online. It's also because I know that in this very room, I am among others like me who are also searching. And there is both great comfort and great joy in the knowledge that I am not, and we are not, searching alone. In our searching, we just might encounter one another, and we'll recognize each other immediately, for sure. Because like Emily Dickinson, we will be the ones out with lanterns looking and shining light into the dark. This is the time for our morning offering. As part of the Free Church tradition, we accept no money from any governmental body, nor do we receive money from any ecclesiastical authority, in order that we shall remain free to govern ourselves. In addition to annual pledges, each week our members and friends may choose to make an additional contribution as public witness that we are and shall remain a free faith. With our offering, we also assert that we are part of the interdependent web of existence, which is why 1 week per month our gifts go to the community organization, There with Care, which we have chosen as our justice partner. You can use cash or check, or the QR code, or the text in the order of service. And now the offering will be given and received. Thank you.
Thank you. Please rise as you're able and join us in singing I Wish I Knew How, number 151 in the gray hymnal, and the words are on the monitors and also in the order of service.
Say
we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Veronica. Now, whether you're online or here in the main hall, please stay after the benediction for conversation. This is a chance to speak to someone that you haven't met before, or maybe you just haven't talked to in a while. If you're online, please unmute yourself, turn on your video, and touch hands virtually, as Barbara demonstrates, while we say our benediction together. And if you're in the main hall, reach out to hold hands with the person next to you if you're comfortable with that, or just to show that you are connected in spirit, you can cross your hands over your heart. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage.
Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love with word and deed. Honor all beings.
Amen.